Hello, YouTube. So I am now 34 days past surgery, um, post-op, whatever. Um, and I'm home. As you can see, I am surrounded by my familiar mess that you're all so used to enjoying. Um, I I've been home now for about 2 weeks. I'm sure you're wondering where I went because I was posting videos pretty quick there for a while. Right now, I mean, the first week, the first full week that I was home was spring break. My older girl was on a school trip to France, which, how terrible. Um, it's pretty awesome, right? So it was just me and my younger girl, and we were just sort of hanging around town and having good food and enjoying each other's company and watching movies and just really having a good time. So I was just trying to be very present for that. I've been reading a bunch of comic books that I had stacked up from before I left. I thought I was going to be able to take them to New York. It turns out there was not room in my luggage for them, so I had been stockpiling comic books so that I would have something to do when I was in New York, and then I ended up not being able to read them. So now I have to read them. I have to catch up here at home. And then watching TV that recorded and stuff like that. So that has been sort of what I've been up to. Additionally, so Sunday was Trans Day of Visibility. I didn't post anything online really about it. I think I retweeted a couple of things, but I didn't post a video because I was out being visible in real life. The youth organization that I volunteer for and support, the one that provides drop-in centers for LGBTQ youth, and the one I volunteer at specifically is for trans youth, had a table at a Trans Day of Visibility event at the library in my old hometown. So I went to work that, and that was really cool. And then yesterday, I actually went back to my old hometown because the community college there is putting on a production of the Vagina Monologues, and I have a mutual friend with the director, and he reached out to me while I was in New York and asked if I was interested in performing on stage. And I said that I've done it before. I haven't done it in a while. And he said, well, my friend is putting on a production of the Vagina Monologues, and she's really interested in having a trans woman be part of it, because they're in more recent editions of the play that have been published, they've included a monologue from a trans woman. And she really wanted to include that, but of course she didn't want to ciscast it, so she was hoping some trans women would come out and audition for it. So I did. The audition itself, I think, went really well. The biggest surprise was when I walked in, the director was there, and I'm holding like the form to fill out your contact info, and I have the little packet of monologues, like scripts that they wanted you to read from. There was a number to choose from, but it was a cold read. So, and I've never seen Vagina Monologues, either performed or filmed or even read them. So, I was coming in very cold for it, but I did know that there was a trans woman monologue. I was trying to not do that one, though, because I wanted to, I thought I could maybe bring something to one that wasn't specifically trans as well. In fact, there's one, I think, I have passing familiarity with it, but I think there's one where a woman is talking about reclaiming the slang terms for vagina and vulva, and like having to do that work with her. And I thought that was really interesting because I'm kind of going through that process right now. Like, I have to... Like, I'm doing the work to try to internalize the idea that those words are mine to use, right? Like, I have that part. I get to do those things, you know? So, I thought that would be an interesting one to audition with, but I didn't get to because the director, as I'm sitting there filling out the form, passes over the trans-specific one, which was like the very last page in the packet, so most folks probably weren't ever going to see it. So she's like, I bet you probably want to try out with this one. So I realized that's what she was asking me to do. It wasn't so much a suggestion as a request, right? So I did. I read it over a couple of times, and I went and performed it, and I think I did really well. And it's interesting because it's a trans experience, but it's not my trans experience. There's a lot of things that are talked about in her monologue that are not mine. So that's something that I'm gonna have to, like, there's interpretation for me to do there, and there's, some stretching that is not, that's about acting. It's not me, right? The biggest surprise, though, is that when I walked in, I was expecting the director to be a younger student, but it turns out she's an older woman, and also is the ex-sister-in-law of my uncle. So my dad's sister's husband's brother's ex-wife. And not only that, so I knew her. And not only that, she used to babysit me when I was little, me and my little brother. In fact, I think she's the one who introduced me to, like, The Last Unicorn and the old Batman TV series. And, I have memories of being in her house with that stuff. So it's really interesting. And she started to greet me and give her a little spiel. And she's like, hi. And she gave her name. And she's like, please come in, sit down. And I'm like, I know you. I know who you are. And that's when she sort of realized who I was. Turns out that she knew that I was coming. Like, our mutual friend, she had put together from what he said who I was, because she mentioned my last name and she recognized it. I didn't know that she was going to be there because he didn't tip me off at all, which I don't know was a good thing, but, it caught me off guard, but I think I managed it well. But yeah, I haven't been on stage since 2004 or 2005 when my daughters were really little. I decided to give it up because it's just such a huge time commitment, and my kids were young, and my wife was already a stay-at-home mom, so she was already home alone with the kids all day long, and it's a really crummy thing. I felt like it was a really crummy thing to then be like, well, I'm gonna go do this other thing and get acclaim and hang out with adults, and you just continue to stay here with the kids. That felt really shitty to me. Like, it was taking some of the joy out of it. So I decided that I was just gonna hang it up for a while. Well, it turns out that a while is over, because my kids are 17 and 15, and one of them drives, and one of them's about to drive. So it's time for me to be able to do some things that I want to do, and I think this will be really interesting. I'll find out this week if I get selected, so I'll let you know. And another interesting thing, at that Day of Remembrance event, there was a panel, and there were a couple of older trans women on there, and they were talking about how their surgery was this, like, transcendent experience for them. I know there's a pun there. It's not intentional, but it's appreciated. This moment, like, they woke up and everything was great, right? And they also woke up in a lot of pain, like, it was excruciating amount of pain. But, like, everything finally felt right on their body, and things clicked into place, and, like, the tumblers of a lock, everything was just sort of where it was supposed to be, and they felt like themselves for the very first time. Very interesting to me, because that's not been my experience. Now, don't take that to mean that I have any regrets, because this was absolutely the right thing for me to do. I feel way better, and it resolved bottom dysphoria, which I was having a great deal, and not every trans woman gets that, right? But it was the case for me, and I had the opportunity, and I was lucky enough to have the financial wherewithal to do this, and I had a very willing employer, and a lot of very lucky things fell into place. But if those things weren't there, I was going to survive, because that's what you do. So it's not elective. It was the right thing to do, and it's definitely a quality of life improvement, but I've not had that sort of overwhelming transcendental feeling of everything is finally right, where it belongs. Because I think I felt like, they were talking about feeling like themselves, like they were finally themselves, or finally a woman, and, like, I was already myself, and I was already a woman, and I was already all of those things, this is just sort of a, it's correcting another problem I was dealing with, but it didn't change who I am in any way. So that's been sort of interesting. Mostly I've just been dealing with dilating because the first month after discharge, which is today is 1 month post-discharge, or yesterday was, you're dilating 4 times a day, and then the next month it's 3 times a day, and then for the next 10 months it's 2 times a day, and it's 15 minutes every time. I've found that to be a significantly more daunting and intimidating experience than I expected it to be. There's a complicating factor for me. My surgical team builds the vagina, designs it to accommodate the 1 3/8 inch dilator. So the dilator set that I have increments by 1/8 of an inch, which is something like 7 millimeters, in diameter. So it starts off at 1 1/8, but you don't use that one. The next one is, that's the purple one. The blue one is 1 1/4. The next one is 1 3/8, and that one's green, and then the orange one is 1.5 inches, which is a lot. Like, so, most women start with the green one, which is 1 3/8. Well, because I had that nerve pain that I talked about in previous videos, I couldn't, like, it was causing me too much pain to use the green one, so I had to start with the blue one, which is 1 1/4. So I'm now moving from the green one, the blue one, to the green one, and it's been a process. It's been really difficult. It turns out that adding 1/8 of an inch in diameter adds a pretty significant amount of circumference, or at least it feels like it does. So, and it certainly looks like it. So it's really intimidating to make that jump from one to the next one, because you sort of get comfortable, and then it's like, well, now I have to do this other thing. So I've been having a hard time sort of getting in the headspace where I can do it. And I have a really good handle on things that squick me out, or that, I can handle or make me uncomfortable and that kind of thing. So, for example, I don't go see horror movies because the images just stick in my head in ways that I'm not comfortable with. That's fine. It's a whole genre of film that I don't really get to enjoy, but I don't enjoy watching it anyway. So, largely that's fine. I think the last one I saw was Get Out, and that was plenty, and I'm definitely not going to see Us because the commercials freak me out. So, but like injections, I don't have any problem getting injections. I don't have any problem donating blood or anything like that. What I do have a problem with, though, is the idea of giving myself injections. So that's why I don't do hormone injections. I do pills. If I had to, I would. But, there's a mental barrier there for me. There's a discomfort for me. Well, that's sort of where I am with the dilating. So I find that it's taking me way longer because I'm sort of lying in bed, not starting to do it, and trying to work up the nerve to get to there. And, it's harder than I expected it to be. But hopefully going from 4 to 3 times a day makes it a little bit easier, gives me a little more spacing, and I've been out of work, so I've been sleeping later, so maybe, once I get back to an earlier waking schedule, I'll have an easier time of it, because it adds a little more space throughout the day, too. But, yeah, so, and I want to be clear that that issue with dilation is a me issue, and that is not an every woman issue. It just happens to be hitting me in some kind of way that I was not prepared for. But I'm working through it, and I'm incrementally getting where I need to be. So, but, I got really lucky. I've not had a great deal of pain. I have been able to get up and walk around and do things, and, I feel mostly fine. I think I get winded a little bit easier than I was before surgery, but, I'm kind of back to just my own routine and doing the things that I was doing and not encountering any, major difficulties. And so, the healing process has just been about as good as I could have ever hoped for. Honest to goodness, this is the best experience that that I I could have prayed to have had, right? I did get the insurance bill, and whoo boy, they charge. I don't understand, because I know women who pay cash, the range is between $20,000 and $30,000. I don't know what this surgical team charges for like self-payers, but like the amount they charged the insurance company was a lot. So I don't know. I don't know. It was way more than I expected it to be. So that was a weird surprise. But I'm really lucky that I have good insurance, so I was able to get it. And you know, I acknowledge that as a privilege. And gosh, I don't know. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't get this, and I would just have to, you know, keep getting by, which I've done my whole life. So, you know, I could have done it. I just got very lucky this time. This particular like confluence of events in this moment. So, but yeah, that's sort of where I am right now. So please feel free to drop me a question or comments. I love hearing from you guys. I'm at Brin Convenient on Twitter. I am at Brin Convenient on Facebook. You can contact me through either of those, and of course always through YouTube. So until next time, thank you guys very much for sticking with me. I really appreciate all the support that I have gotten from you. I thought my last video was going to get more views, to be perfectly honest with you, with that cute little hedgehog image, but turned out not. So, you know, I don't know how this thing works. But anyway, I will be back, and thank you so much.